Recently, I've been working my way around the Portable Enlightenment Reader by Isaac Kramnik, edited by him rather. It's a fantastic selection of texts from Enlightenment thinkers from Britain, from the continent, and it's really a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the primary sources to get a sense of the unity to a degree of Enlightenment thinkers, but also the diversity. And there's no better way, in my mind, than picking up this reader to do that. But something that really struck me was an essay by John Locke, the English political theorist, well known for his second discourse, which outlines what might be described as an early liberalism, an early vision of liberalism for society. And it's his letter concerning toleration that really struck me in this. And what struck me with it particularly was how this could be the point when people started to see the economy as separate from society, its own sort of self-sufficient sphere that could be focused on and theorized apart from so-called religious beliefs. And these sentences in particular struck me in this regard. So John Locke says, "The Commonwealth seems to me to be a society of men constituted only for the procuring, preserving, and advancing their own civil interests. Civil interests I call life, liberty, health, and indolency of body, and the possession of outward things such as money, lands, houses, furniture, and the like." So what's remarkable here is that, maybe completely understandably, after the chaos of the 17th century, of different religious groups arguing, fighting, after Charles I being beheaded and the Commonwealth headed by Cromwell ultimately coming to nothing, you can understand why people might be just a bit sick of religious disputes over biblical interpretation. You can understand why they might want to find another, apparently more solid principle to build thinking off of, to build social theory off of. And for the Enlightenment in general, this principle was reason, which we might interrogate in a very different way now, post theory. But what's fascinating is that for John Locke, he is seeking to build a vision of society around material goods, property, the economy. He sees this as the kind of safe central core of society that hopefully everyone can agree on, can agree that yes, that is what must be maintained, regardless of what they might disagree on otherwise. He wasn't saying those other things, religious beliefs, are unimportant. He said they might be very important for men's souls, but ultimately men's souls, that's not the concern of civil government and civil society. And again, as highly understandable as this attitude is, we would have to ask whether it is really as neutral as Locke suggests. Is putting the economic concerns in the driving seat really going to bring everyone freedom, however we might define that? Is it really going to work to everyone's benefit? Is that really how we want to live? Is that how we should live? And I think in Locke's own thinking, there are obvious ways we could see that his ideals are more complicated than he might describe. It's no secret that his involvement in colonialism in North America in some way was founded on his theory that property is whatever land you can mix with your labour. you can improve with your labour. So if the Native Americans aren't improving it, then someone else can come along, improve it, and it's theirs. So, as with many Enlightenment thinkers in general, there's this interesting tension or contradiction between theories of equality, of equal rights to property, the pursuit of happiness, but then who exactly has those rights turns out often to be white European men. But what really got me thinking with this was how this kind of attitude, well, let's agree on what's obviously beneficial or pleasant for everyone, the economy, material goods, is very much the keynote of middle class culture, certainly here in the UK, and I imagine elsewhere. Middle class culture, which I have grown up in, is very much one of being careful not to bring up controversial topics, not religion, politics, or sex, unless absolutely necessary. Any differences have to be smoothed under the carpet. If there has been an awkward conversation, well, it will be smoothed away. Drinks will be brought out, and maybe conversation can turn once again to holidays, a house purchase, the children's school, and so on. Things everyone can agree on and get on with. And again, this serves to prevent disagreeable awkwardness, confrontation, which few people enjoy, but also means that there can be this rather odd habit among the middle classes of not bringing things out in the open, of keeping grievances and disagreements sort of in the cupboard. And that can be rather unhealthy in its own way. The working classes and the lower middle class in Britain are much more likely to bring out disagreement, to confront. And while that has its downsides potentially, with perhaps greater volatility in relationships, there's also a positive side to that, in that these things don't remain buried perhaps for decades, stewing away. And the big question that faces me now is, as the middle classes perhaps disappear, as home ownership for most young middle class people becomes a distant dream, an impossibility, as the middle class lifestyle that we've known it of relative luxury disappears, what will replace that culture? Can anything replace it? Will there be some mass breakdown or psychosis? I don't know. But it seems to me that that is probably on the cards before we find out what happens next.